Welcome everybody in session 13 of our class. We are looking at types of software testing in regards to job interviews. You have to understand the fundamental difference between interviews when they talk to people who are fresh. Let's say when our graduates go to internship interview. So when you go for that kind of interview, they ask definitions, they ask if you kind of understand what the whole thing is about, the general concept. When you have experience and you go to the job market interview, and then the focus changes. They do not ask you, what is your definition of regression testing? The question will be, how did you do regression testing on that project? Still, the idea of definition is very important, because when you start talking about the things you do, then sometimes people think, wait a second, what did he mean? I mean, is it regression? What does he mean under regression then? And they ask you, okay, how would you define regression? So even though initially, they do not care about definitions, when you start talking about how you do things, they might say, well, it needs some clarification. So what did you really mean under that? So knowledge of definitions is important. It's not that much critical when you have experience. It is much more critical when you have no experience. At least you did the study and you learned something. Okay. So I just want to point to the resource you know about already. So on the school forum, so portnow.com forums, okay. So we have, okay, let me go back. Okay, we have that software testing interview questions sub forum, and inside of that, we have detailed answers to certain questions. For example, ad hoc testing, performance testing, GUI functionality, black box. So certain answers, negative, are given to you in a very detailed form. And still, we want to go through all types of testing here. Look at that list. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So guys, about 30 types of testing. And let's go after some of them, which are, I would say, probably more popular. I have one more list for you. Let me show. If you go to portnow.com/data page, so you know how to get there. Okay, just a second. I have a link for you there. Right here it says internship interview questions. That list is bringing to your attention 5 groups of questions coming out of 5 companies. Our graduates, when they go to interviews, so they are supposed to report the questions and their answers. So we know all the questions companies ask, and that is the real life thing. Look at the first company here. What is regression, acceptance, stress test, integration, usability, smoke? How would you test this pen? Guys, we go through that, you remember. How did you hear about QA? Write a bug report, write a test case. Normally it means they point to something and they say, okay, here is the problem, write a bug report. Okay, here is the functionality, write a test case or a couple of test cases. Or they might say, give me a report for a bug you found in one of your projects, or give me a test case for something you tested before. So, but that very first group of 10 questions gives you pretty much what companies are up to when they look at you. They want to know that you understand testing. How do they know that? They ask you, what is regression, what is this, what is that? Definitely, if you say, what is regression, you say more than that. Let's take a look at that list of questions we have for you. on school forum, it is not just the definition. So in the definition, we are saying it is partial retesting of modified program to make sure that no new errors were introduced while making changes to the code. Then we come with certain details. It should be done for each new release or each new build. So how often? We do it for each and every release. We do not have enough time to retest the software completely. That is why there is a great deal of risk analysis involved. So we have to decide which part we retest, which part we give more attention and time. It is second to release acceptance in being executed frequently. And it is a very good candidate for automation because it is very frequent type of test. So, and they ask you for definition, but definition by itself doesn't say much about you and what you know about the subject. So then you come with certain details, and then you say, you know what, and this project which I did, and you did that project maybe for you test, maybe for the one we do in the class, but you say the challenge was, it was very difficult to understand what exactly to do for regression testing, and we used release notes which developers would provide for each and every build. And so the release notes was the centerpiece, you know, in deciding what to test first and what the priorities are. So so you refer to your actual experience. That is how you answer. And then we have, if I feel certain questions are coming with common mistakes, so I do give you those mistakes. So when you talk about regression, never say that it is something you do after fixing a bug. It's not about fixing a bug, it's about making changes to the application. And changes could be fixing a bug, developing the feature, or sometimes changes are configurational. They still have to recompile the whole thing and create another release. It might not work really because of the configurational changes, not exactly the code. So after after new feature was added, not really. It's about modifying the code. Making sure the bug was fixed, never say that. We call it verification of fixed bugs. Some people would, you know, include that in the regression, but then it creates confusion. You do not say that. It's not about manual testing or automated testing. It's not about black box or white box. Because some people say regression is a black box testing done to do certain. No. So that is what we say when it comes to regression. So go back to that list. Let's go question by question, just following the order in that list. We have how many testing types? 6 here. Okay, and it really represents the importance, the priority given to testing types at the interview time. So regression is the #1 interview question about testing types. Let me do this. Let me say Control F. So we are searching for, let's say, regression. I type regression here. Look how many times. We have 5 companies. Regression 1, regression 2, regression 3, regression 4. You can see it. Yellow and yellow and yellow. So 4 companies out of 5 ask about regression. Good. Now, acceptance testing. What about acceptance testing? Let's see. Let's see if we discuss that in our forum. Honestly, I'm not sure. If we do not have it there, we will create it with you, and I will actually upload. I do not see acceptance. Negative, gray box. Okay, let's do it. Let's do it here. We are saying acceptance testing. First of all, when it comes to acceptance testing, you do not really understand what they mean, because there is no acceptance testing by itself. We talk about different flavors of acceptance testing. The overall idea of acceptance testing is, so we either accept or reject something. So that is the overall idea. Or maybe let's put it here. Yeah. Either accept or reject something, and the very name of acceptance testing suggests that. The question though is, the question is, what are the flavors of acceptance testing? So one is called release acceptance, or build, release or build acceptance. Build acceptance. That is one thing. Another one would be user acceptance. Oops. Acceptance testing. It comes with an abbreviation UAT. So let's talk about each separately. So those are two most common ways. So let's say one. Okay, release acceptance testing. So release is either accepted to be used by QA team, or rejected, is either accepted or rejected, to be used by QA team. Why it happens? Because releases or builds, they have their own problems. So, and the whole idea of release acceptance testing is we are looking for catastrophic failures. So it is about catastrophic failures. So it is not about, detailed testing of feature this and feature that and seeing, looking at the precise pieces. No. If we have compilation problem, if we have release issue involved, what kind? Let's say developers, not developers, the release engineer used maybe wrong pieces of software developed, by different people. So some pieces do not belong to that release. So then overall, and you will see it immediately. So overall, that build is not good. So it becomes transitional build. We reject it. So what happens after we accept it? So it is, okay, as a result, if it passes, okay, if the test is passed, the release or build goes to regression testing. So if it fails, there is no regression testing. There is no need in regression testing. That is why release acceptance or build acceptance test is more frequent than regression test, because some builds will not pass the release acceptance and they will not go to regression. So that is what we know about release or build acceptance. And if we look at your page here, on your class page, so we have different types of testing, and some of them come as links. And behind each and every link, there is a definition coming from Wikipedia. So it points to Wikipedia. And some tests have no definition on Wikipedia. Some tests are represented by articles, and I'm just looking at smoke testing, user acceptance. We do not talk about release acceptance here. Okay, there is no definition of release acceptance. So let's take a look at the result here. We are saying either accepted or rejected, about catastrophic issues, sent to regression. Regression. There is one more thing. So the most frequently executed test, real good candidate for being automated. One more thing. Could be executed by either QA or a release person. Very often release is done, let's say in the middle of night, sometimes, done at the time when developers and testers go home. So before they go home, they say, okay, here is what we've done, and give it to release engineer, and then they go home. And when release engineer starts producing the build, there might be no testers around. And then release engineer does the release acceptance testing. My first automated test automation script was automation of release acceptance test, because in our company where I worked at the time, the gentleman who was doing the release, he would come to the office in between 10 p.m. and 11 p.m. That is the time he comes. And then he starts bringing pieces together, and maybe in the middle of night, like 2 a.m. or 3 a.m., he has the release done. And then, so he would run my automated script to figure out within minutes, what happens to the release. Because the alternative is he does the release and goes home, and we come in the morning and the release is not good. So with that release acceptance test, automated release acceptance test, he runs it, and if there is a problem, he will fix the problem, and he will run it, he will create another build. So when we come in the morning, we have much better chance of release being in place. So that is the idea of release acceptance testing. So let me make it a separate article. Release build acceptance testing. Now we are looking at user acceptance testing. That is a very interesting piece. Let's take a look what Wikipedia says. Must be here. No. Yeah. Wait a second. Must be here. User acceptance test. Look at that. Wikipedia says user acceptance testing is a process to obtain confirmation that system meets mutually agreed upon requirements. So guys, mutually agreed between who and who? Let me give you some background. So you understand that people who write articles on Wikipedia are human beings like you and me, and and they are coming from different environments. Some people are coming from, let's say, big company environment which is doing consumer software, let's say Google. And some people are coming from consulting company environment where they have a client, very specific client, and that client comes to them and client says, guys, I need such and such software, here are the requirements. In that case, you can say, yes, we have mutually agreed upon requirements. So you have client and you know that client and you can talk to that client. If you do something to send to the market and you do not have exactly the client who pays you for that, but you just do the software in expectation of people buying that software, then you do not have mutually agreed upon requirements. You have some requirements which are not mutually agreed. It's your idea of requirement. Then, so that part is not must. I would say mutually agreed requirements is not must. So it is a process to obtain confirmation the system meets whatever requirements. subject matter expert, SME. So subject matter expert is not a QA person. Subject matter expert is the person who knows exactly that business. Let's say if we do software for banking business, we need someone who is real good in banking business. So we bring people who we think should be using that product heavily, and they know the field, and they understand, how that product should be utilized. And we organize these people. We say, guys, okay, here is what we want you to do. Okay, here is the plan. Here are the steps. So the role of QA is to organize these people. Let's document that. Let's say it here. User acceptance testing. So first of all, it is done by SME, subject matter experts. Lots of people, when they say user acceptance testing, they have no idea what it means. And they put in their resume, I was doing user acceptance testing. QA doesn't do user acceptance testing. They just think that user acceptance testing is like, you look and say, do I like it? Nah, not really. So it's not user acceptance testing. And it's not even what testers are doing. So be careful. Done by subject matter experts on behalf of users, of future users. So then QA organizes the process and selects the subject matter experts. We have to say, okay, we trust this guy and this guy and this guy, because someone has to say who is included into the group of subject matter experts. Testing, that kind of testing is conducted on the company facilities. So we bring them to our office. Is normally means the subject matter experts are not doing the testing from home. No. We bring them to our office, and that is why they do it. By the way, I can look at that page. It says types of acceptance testing: user acceptance, operational acceptance, contract and regular acceptance, alpha, beta, God knows, lots of different things here. Okay, so that is what user acceptance testing is about. And what else? I don't know. Let's see. Do we have user acceptance in our list here? No? Gray box, regression, functionality, no? Okay, so if we don't have it, we don't have it. So I will add that to the list, guys. I created that file. Look, I saved that file, save. So that is my job now to bring it up. There is a type of testing, by the way, and you can see it here. It says smoke testing or superficial released build acceptance. Another name of that is sanity check. Let's take a look. What is that smoke testing about? Smoke testing refers to physical tests made to closed systems or pipes to detect. Oh, okay. That is about plumbing. Okay, let's go to electronics, software development. Okay. In computer programming and software testing, smoke testing is preliminary testing to reveal simple failures severe enough to reject a prospective software release. You know what? Let's take that as a definition of release acceptance. So testing to reveal simple failures severe enough to reject prospective release. Let me do it. I would say copy from here, go to the Notepad, and I would say release acceptance testing. So let's say definition. I would say definition, and I would say it is testing to reveal the simple failures severe enough to reject the prospective software. Good. I think it's a good definition. Safe. Okay. Subset of test cases that covers the most important functionality of component or system are selected and run. So subset of test cases. We do not need complete set of all the test cases. No, just a subset. Okay. By the way, as a part of your preparation, what you would have to do, you would have to go after each and every one here. Okay. And we have a video, if we look at the very top here. Yes, I believe that, no, wait a second. When we go to, I'm sorry, here. We have two videos on software testing types. I mean, one on quality assurance, another one on software testing types interview. So we go over all of those questions here in that video. So that is something you watch. It's a part of your homework. It's a part of your preparation. So two videos cover the entire scope of interview questions on software quality assurance and software testing types. We have both. Okay, coming back to the list here. Regression, acceptance, stress test. Let's look at stress test. The perspective which I want you to look from at that is we have a group. We have a group which includes stress testing. Where is it? Integrate operating. Okay, it's right here. What is performance, load, stress, and volume? So we have four types of testing. Four types of testing, which are kind of related. Not always related, somewhat related, more or less related, but that is how we want you to look at that. So we have performance, load, stress, and volume. When we look at performance, it is, I would say, intuitively very simple. So performance testing is about how fast things happen. No, where is it here? So performance testing is in general testing performed to determine how a system performs in terms of responsiveness and stability under particular workload. Responsiveness and stability. So how fast it is, number one, and how long it works with same level of being fast. So performance testing is not like you reach certain peak load and you say, okay, is it surviving that? No, it's not about survival for a minute or 20 seconds. It is about surviving specific or particular workload, which is not extreme. It is normal workload, which is what system is supposed to survive for a long period of time. So you are saying, okay, let's say here is the maximum the system is supposed to survive. And you say, okay, let's take 80% of the maximum and see how performance will change, or how what's going to happen to performance if we do that 80% of maximum within 4 hours. What if we do it for 10 hours? What if we do it for 24 hours? Are we going to see any performance degradation? So what we want to see is either we have or we do not have performance degradation. Means the system becomes slower, or either just because of the load or because of the time that load is being sent to the system. Normally, to run load performance testing, we need certain tools. Either it is a tool like let's say, load runners or JMeter, for example. Or it is a routine which developers write specifically for that purpose. So they can write something in Java and give it to you. So you just execute. There is a subtle difference between performance and load. See, under performance types, you see load. Lots of people do not understand the difference between load and performance. They think it is exactly the same. It is not the same. But most of the people who are doing performance, they are doing load without understanding they are doing performance, and vice versa. I will point to the difference. So load testing is the simplest form of performance testing. Simplest form of performance testing. What makes it the simplest form? Now, look at that. If you have a client computer, let's say you have your own computer, and you go to let's say you are testing Gmail, for example. So we all understand Gmail. And you do something and you measure performance, so you measure how fast things happen. And to do that, you definitely need some tool, because it happens so fast, you cannot really measure it with your own, eyes. And so you need some tools to go into milliseconds and, certain small periods of time. And why the system might be slow? We have lots of reasons. So first of all, your computer might be slow. It might not have enough cache, for example, then it's slow. When people develop Gmail, do they really care about your computer? Are they responsible for cache amount in your computer? Not really. They develop something which has no control over your computer. But it might be slow because of your system. It might be slow because of your internet connection. And when people develop Gmail, they have no control over your internet connection. It might be slow because of, let's say, what happens on the back end. So the database, the server, the environment used. I mean, they might do that in Unix environment. They might do that in the Windows environment. So it might be Oracle or mainframe-based, database, or it might be Microsoft Access, for example. And it's going to be very slow then. So when it comes to back end, then we talk about load testing. So if you test performance, but you limit the scope of problems which might happen, so the problems you control in that, to the back end itself, so that is load. So that is what makes it the simplest one. See, it says here, if database, application server, etc. are also monitored, then this simple test can itself point toward any bottlenecks in the application software. So load is not about your computer cache, and it's not about internet connection. Load is about how back-end server survives the traffic. And it might be measured in different units. And it says here, so the load can be the expected concurrent number of users. We might say, okay, we are testing Gmail. What if we have 1,000 users sending emails? What if we have 100,000 users sending emails? What if we have 10 million users sending emails? So we can measure load in number of concurrent users, or we might measure load in number of, let's say, megabytes. Let's say we send files different ways, or we can measure in number of email messages sent. So whatever units make sense to that specific application. So let's say 1,000 emails sent within a minute, or 10,000 emails sent within a minute. So that kind. Or that many megabytes transferred from place to place. So that is load testing. There is another subset of performance called stress testing. But guys, load testing, same as performance, is not done under extreme loads. Both performance and load are done within normal loads for that application. You are not trying to exceed normal limits of traffic. Stress testing is different. Stress testing is specifically about extreme volumes, extreme amounts of data, users, and this and that. So stress testing is normally used to understand the upper limits of capacity within the system. This kind of testing is done to determine the system robustness in terms of extreme load, extreme load, and helps application administrators to determine if the system will perform sufficiently if the current load goes, one more time, well above the expected maximum. Extreme load going well above the expected maximum. That is the definition for stress testing. So performance and load happen within normal loads. Stress happens at extreme loads well above the expected maximum. That is the difference. Okay. Then we have one left, which is volume. Okay, volume. So let's go and look at volume. So volume is not about how fast. So volume has nothing to do with how fast. That is why volume is not a subset of performance. It is a different type of testing. And it says non-functional. So it's not about functionality. It's not about functionality. So volume is about how many things could be processed. Volume testing refers to testing a software application with certain amount of data. For example, let's say you have a database, and that database has features such as import and export. Let's say I can export data from database to the file. So then I can import the data into another database. And I'm saying, okay, I have 10,000 records. Let's see, can I export that? Yes. What if I do 100,000 records? Can I export that? Yes. What if I have 1 million records? Can I export that? Yes. Or no? I remember one time I was doing that export-import testing, the volume testing, and what I found out, the database which was supposed to maintain up to 100,000 records, when I did the export closer to 70,000, it never stopped. So I did have progress indicator on my screen, and it would hang there forever, and the process never ends up. And what happened, the application, the way it was programmed, it was using a buffer to store the data temporarily. And on my system, there was not enough memory to do that. I mean, for that much of data. See, if I would use more powerful system, or system with more resources available, let's say I delete stuff from my computer, so I will be having more resources available on that same system. So then I will never run into problems. So it would create the buffer of the size it needs, and it will actually process the data. But you know what? If there is not enough data there, it just hangs forever. Without checking, see, when I start the export process, the system should request the resources available and figure out if it is capable of doing that. And it happens a lot with lots of different applications. I believe you've seen that before. And in that specific case, it wasn't doing that. So we would say it didn't pass nicely the volume test. So volume test allowed me to point to the fact that the system doesn't check if there is enough room to do the export and so on. Okay, so that is the idea of volume testing. So it's not about how long it takes. It's about, is that system capable of processing that much of data, whatever it happens. It might be, for example, showing something on your screen. Let's say it has to go and bring, I don't know, read 25 files or 2,500 files to show them on your screen. And then the system is not capable of really doing that. So it might really have different appearance, but again, it is not about things being fast or being slow. It's just about things being capable of handling certain things. Now, guys, let's take a look. So we looked at stress tests, and whatever comes with stress tests, so performance, load, and volume. Usability testing, smoke. So we just covered smoke. Smoke is a superficial release acceptance. So when we talk about acceptance, we mentioned release acceptance, and then smoke is basically release acceptance testing, superficial, very, very superficial release acceptance testing. That is a slang term. Smoke is a slang term. Okay, let's take a look at the page here. What are other types of testing I would say are critically important? You know what? Black, white, and gray. Let's talk a little bit about this. As simple as it is, we have lots of people not being able to provide that, explain that nicely. You know, it comes with lots of incorrect things, and if you are not 100% correct with something complicated, it's okay. If you are not 100% correct with the most basic stuff, then it's a big trouble. And I believe we have black box testing here. Let's see, what is, do we have black box? We have gray box, I can see it here. We have gray box. And we have black box. Okay, let's take a look at the black box. What is black box? So, testing done from user perspective, so without accessing the source code itself. So I have no idea of the source code. I might have access actually, but I do not use that access. I'm not looking at the source code. I'm testing from user perspective. That is the idea of black box. It is never who does it. Because sometimes people say black box testing is done by testers, white box testing is done by developers. No. Developers do lots of black box testing. When developer wants to make sure user can use the code, developers turns into black box tester. Developer becomes a user for a while. So testing done from user perspective. That is pretty much the definition. Testing done from user perspective. Details. It is not who does it, but it's about how it is done, just mentioned. Bugs are identified and reported from user perspective. Okay. It could be manual or automated, and it is still black box. Some people manage, to say that if it is automated, it's not black box anymore. Wait a second. We have lots of tools. We call them GUI automation tools, which means they automate through graphic user interface, which is perfectly black box. So they just manipulate controls, on the interface, so buttons and checkboxes and text field. So it is perfectly black box. So avoid, the possible mistakes here. Okay, black box is okay. Then we have much more problems with gray box testing. Let's take a look. So what is gray box testing? It is not, first of all, it is not a combination of black and white. Never ever say that. You might see that in different places, but people who write it just have no idea what it is. A couple of years ago, when I was teaching that same class, I told people, guys, never ever go to Wikipedia to research software testing issues because it's a total crap. But you know what? A couple of years ago, it changed. It became so brilliant, so good. So there happened some people coming and doing a nice job. So far, if you look at definition of gray box on Wikipedia, it's a combination of black and white. No. No. Anytime you have white box as a part of it, it becomes white box. If you do things at source code level, that's it. You are in white box testing. That is the definition of white box testing. Testing done at source code level. Gray box testing is different. Look, it says it is using structural, design, and environment information, complete or incomplete. Some structural, design, and environment information. You remember we talked about back-end, the three-tier architecture in web applications, so web server, application server, database server. If you understand that architecture, if you understand the protocols used in between, if you understand the existence of log files and what goes into log files, if you understand the record created in the database for this purpose and that person, then you can do it. And then it says, structural design and environment information to expand or focus black box testing. We expand and focus black box testing. We do not go into white box testing. And to enhance testing productivity by using appropriate methods and tools. Since we go beyond the graphic user interface, then we need tools, because all we can see with our own eyes is what's on the screen. So to do gray box testing, we definitely need some tools. We use Fiddler, yeah, to look at the protocols, yeah, and not just protocols. We use database tools. We use Shell and Perl to write small scripts to parse log files, or whatever tools. Guys, there are many, many, many tools. Okay, and it says, extension of black box, good. Using methods and tools, or languages, programming languages. A lot of web testing is done in gray box area. Okay. So, pretty good, guys, pretty good. I think we are doing well, and I hope you understand what I'm saying and kind of agree. I don't know, nobody writes anything in Skype, so I don't know if you're excited or just focused or what happens with you. So regression, performance, ad hoc and exploratory, guys, we know what we are talking about. So we have three components. We have planning, executing, and learning. So in both ad hoc and exploratory, ad hoc is a subset of exploratory. So in exploratory testing, and the purpose of exploratory testing is to explore, to learn, to better understand the application. So we do some planning, we do some execution, we do some learning, looking at the results, and there is some time in between. In ad hoc, there is no time between planning, executing, and learning. It just happens at the same time. And people call it monkey testing because it looks like monkey testing, because monkey does not plan and monkey does not learn. But it just looks like monkey. It is not. Because as humans, we do plan and we do learn, but it happens at the same time. So that is ad hoc. What else? User acceptance, beta testing. By the way, beta testing, if we go back to user acceptance, beta testing is similar to user acceptance, but it is done outside of the company. We give our software to people who are not on our premises. So that is the fundamental difference. So we do want some acceptance, we want feedback from users, but users are not here. Users are in their environment. Some companies have very limited pool of beta testers. Some companies might give their product to millions of people for free download. Microsoft does that when it comes to next version of operating system, for example. And they give it for free download so people report if they have any problem with it. Okay. Smoke testing we discussed. Unit testing. Unit testing is also one of the very important types of testing. which you have to really know about. So unit testing is a white box testing. And unit is something defined by system architect at the time of creating the architecture. And unit is a piece of code responsible for certain functionality. So developers, when developers do testing, they do primarily unit testing. If you take any book on software engineering, it has a chapter on testing, and they talk about unit testing. So unit testing is done by developers, and if you say, I did unit testing, nobody would understand how come you are in QA doing unit testing. We do have similar things on our side, and we do not say unit, we say module. We test functional modules. Just do not use the word unit, otherwise it will cause certain confusion. But when it comes to integration testing, on the white box level, they integrate different units. They see how units work together. On the black box side, we might integrate different features, different functional modules. We might test how they work together, which has nothing to do with integration testing done at white box level. I mean, no correlation. System testing means we test the whole thing. System testing is like test drive. When you test drive a car, you are not testing specifically engine or computer or pneumatics or hydraulics or anything like that. You just test the whole system. That is system testing. End-to-end testing is functional and system testing. When you do system testing, it is not just about functionality. You might test system for load, for stress, for durability, and lots of different things. But when you do end-to-end testing, you are making sure the system functions properly. So that is the at the business level. So you execute business tasks. You say, okay, can I do this business task? Can I do that business task? If you have use cases developed by business analysts at some point, so then when you run use case on QA side, that is your end-to-end test. You just create checking account, you create saving account, you transfer money from one account to another account. That is end-to-end testing. Okay, guys, we have more detailed coverage of each and every type of testing in the video, which is linked on the video page. But today I was just trying to maybe focus on a couple of types of testing to give you maybe more detailed, more in-depth coverage of those selected types because they are most common. Okay, so it was my pleasure to entertain you today with all that stuff. And so unless you have questions, I will go to converting our conversation into the webinar in electronic format. So nobody says anything. Okay, guys, then thank you very much, and let me proceed to creating the webinar. Thank you very much. We'll talk to you Monday next week.